What if a single mistake made centuries ago finally came back to claim us? In 2025, we thought 3I Atlas was just another interstellar rock. But we were wrong. It was a survey marker, proof that Earth had already been cataloged by a cosmic empire that has now returned to collect their property. Their ships bend gravity. Their laws deny our existence. And their ultimatum is simple: kneel or be erased. But humanity has never belonged to anyone. As they close their grip, one admiral must unite a fractured solar system and turn our greatest vulnerability into the weapon that decides our future. Because this isn't just a battle for Earth. It's a battle for the right to exist at all. Join us as we explore the moment humanity finally stands and refuses to be claimed. Section 1. Echoes of 3I Atlas. The first warning did not come from a telescope, a patrol ship, or a panic transmission screaming across the void. It came from a bored archivist with ghosts of data no one had bothered to touch in centuries. The Deep Record Facility hung in a careful orbit above the dark limb of the moon, a cylinder of alloy and ice shielding drives that held humanity's memory. Inside, between humming stacks and soft status lights, analyst Mira Cade leaned back in her chair and watched a progress bar crawl across her display. The Accord Council had ordered a routine integrity sweep of pre-2100 observation archives. Old skies surveys, transient object catalogs, obsolete telemetry. Most of it had been auto-validated and discarded. But a subset resisted compression, fighting every attempt to be forgotten. Mira tapped the label 3I Atlas, more out of habit than curiosity. The interstellar object had been a trivia item in Academy days, a rock that had drifted through the inner system in 2025 and slingshot back into the dark. Natural, everyone had said. Boring, the way truly alien things often looked at first glance. The file opened into a storm. Raw sensor streams poured across the display. Radar, LiDAR, radio, optical, far richer than anything a minor object should have earned. Embedded within the noise, signatures blinked in precise, repeating patterns, not random, not instrument error, but encoded. Mira frowned and ran a modern decrypt suite on a whim. The algorithms chewed, stalled, then snapped into alignment with a shiver of green indicators. A reconstruction bloomed in front of her. Earth, as seen from the passing object, not as a blurry disk, but an obsessive detail. Layered scans of ocean salinity, atmospheric chemistry, city light distribution, biosphere heat bloom. Every frame time-stamped, every data block-tagged. At the bottom of the metadata chain, a simple designation pulsed. Asset, 3I Atlas / seed world candidate. Myra's mouth went dry. No, she whispered. That can't be. She pulled deeper. Hidden in the telemetry stream, narrow beam bursts lanced outward, away from the sun, toward a point far beyond the heliopause. Each burst carried refined slices of Earth. Population grids, resource charts, low-orbit infrastructure maps. The last burst left the system 40 minutes after 3I Atlas's closest approach. By the time Mira pushed back from her console, her hands were shaking. The contact protocol flashed at the edge of her vision, reminding her of duty. Report anomaly to Accord oversight. She exhaled, opened a secure channel, and quietly changed the fate of species by telling it that, long ago, something had looked back. Please do press that like button if you have enjoyed this story so far. That would mean a lot to me. Now back to the story. Section 2. Arrival of the Dominion. The first ripple passed unnoticed through the outer system. It was too smooth, too uniform, too elegantly shaped to resemble anything natural. A gravitational tremor without a source, like the faint crease left in water after something vast had shifted beneath the surface. Only deep space buoy arrays caught it. Tiny machines orbiting far beyond Neptune. whispering uncertainty into silent logs without any context to explain what they sensed. 2 hours later, the second ripple struck with clarity. On the bridge of the Accord Defense Lattice flagship Helios Crown, Admiral Ren Calder watched the outer system monitors bloom with warnings. Curved lines of distortion crossed the emptiness where nothing should have moved. Calder had seen warps before, failed jump experiments, collapsing fusion drives. But this was different. The contours were too perfect, almost deliberate, as if someone were folding the vacuum along pre-marked seams laid out long before humanity understood gravity. Origin, he asked. Unknown, the sensor chief replied. Pattern resembles controlled gravimetrics, but well beyond modeled limits. Nothing human. Calder leaned forward. Show me the center. The main display magnified a 0.50 astronomical units from Pluto, a region so empty even dust was rare. At first, there was only darkness. Then the darkness curved. A thin ring of blue fire flared into existence, followed by another, each rotating in opposite directions. Space began to peel open, revealing shapes emerging from behind the fabric of reality itself. They were ships, enormous, silent, and shaped like elongated crescents. Their surfaces shimmered with a metallic sheen that bent starlight into spirals. Around each vessel, gravity rippled like heat over stone. Calder felt the crew shift uneasily. These are not explorers, not traders. These were warships arriving as if the universe itself had been instructed to make room for them. A transmission request blinked. Calder nodded. Put it through. A voice filled the bridge, smooth, layered, neither male nor female, modulated with an unsettling harmonic resonance that felt more calculated than spoken. Terran civilization, your star system has been re-entered by the Varaxi Dominion. We acknowledge the presence of a developed biosphere and post-industrial species. Asset classification, 3I Atlas. Reclamation process initiated. Silence thickened across the bridge. Calder felt the air tighten. Reclamation, he asked quietly. Correct, the voice replied. This world was surveyed and registered by the Dominion epochs ago. Your species has reached extraction maturity. Prepare for assessment and transition. Resistance is inefficient. The transmission ended without ceremony. Calder exhaled once, steady and slow. Humanity had wondered for centuries what would happen when someone finally arrived from the dark between stars. Now the answer stood before them, wrapped in gravity and authority, and it did not come with curiosity or diplomacy. It came with a claim. If you have enjoyed this story so far, then please do subscribe and hit the bell icon to listen to more stories like this one. Let's get back to the story now. Section 3, the Treaty of the Unseen. The Accord Council convened beneath an artificial sky that pretended to be calm. Above the African night, the orbital hall hung, its dome projecting stars as they should have been. Admiral Calder stood at the edge of the chamber, watching delegates file in, each trailed by aides and tension. On the central hollow dais, the Varaxi emblem hovered, a stylized spiral of arcs, like gravity wells drawn as art. It rotated with patient confidence. Admiral Calder, Counselor Ira Salim approached, her face drawn tight. You've seen their latest transmission? I heard enough to lose sleep, he said. They brought paperwork to a conquest. Cosmic law, she said. Epical treaties. A registry of seeded worlds. And we're on the list because of a rock we dismissed as debris. The chamber lights dimmed as the session began. Calder remained standing behind the primary Accord block, close enough to speak if invited, far enough to observe. The AI moderator's voice rolled through the air, calm, neutral. Inquiry into Dominion claim on Asset 3I Atlas. The Varaxi representative appeared as a luminous construct above the dais, a shifting geometry of arcs and nodes rather than a body. Its voice carried the same layered harmony Calder had heard on the bridge. Terran Accord. Our Dominion recorded your world via probe 3 I-Atlas during your early digital epoch. At that time, your species had not achieved interstellar reach. Under the Treaty of the Unseen, such worlds may be surveyed, registered, and reclaimed upon maturation of biosphere value. A murmur moved around the hall. Counselor Salim stood. Your probe did not announce itself. Our people were not asked. Pre-ascendant biocultures lack standing, the Varaxi replied. They cannot consent to what they do not comprehend. We preserve value in their stead. This is mercy, not theft. Calder clenched his jaw. Mercy, he thought. That sounded like a farmer's fondness for livestock. A delegate from the outer habitats rose. You speak of law. Who wrote it? Who agreed? The first Concord of Gravities, the Varaxi said. Signed by civilizations that shaped space-time at scale. Those who do not wield such tools are subjects of stewardship, not partners. There was, Calder realized, the blade inside the politeness. Salim spread her hands. We now possess off-world colonies, independent fleets, system-wide infrastructure. We are not livestock. Your maturity is why reclamation is timely, the Varaxi answered. Your expansion increases entropy risk. Under treaty, we are obliged to act. The hall filled with protests. The Varaxi emblem never flickered. To them, this was procedure. To humanity, it was a sentence written in someone else's language. Calder studied the spiral symbol and felt something settle inside him. If the law of the sky had been written without them, then their first task was not to obey it. It was to prove they belonged at the table that had drafted it. Section 4. Demonstration of Gravity. The Varaxi did not begin with violence. They began with precision. Their ships drifted beyond the orbit of Saturn in a formation so exact it could only be intentional. Their crescents aligned like blades arranged for a ritual. Admiral Calder, watching from the command tier of the Helios Crown, suspected it was both ceremony and threat, a way of announcing dominance without firing a shot. The bridge hummed with quiet tension as officers waited for telemetry to catch up with dread. The next transmission arrived, brief, formal, confident to the edge of contempt. Reclamation assessment will now proceed. The words had barely faded when space folded near the Jovian colonies. A distortion appeared without warning. A sphere of rippling airlessness, visible only in the way it bent starlight into delicate arcs. It was elegant, beautiful, and utterly lethal. The gravity surge reached the main shipyard 2 seconds later. Calder saw the reading spike before the visual came through. The station's kilometer-wide frame bent inward, plates curling like paper touched by fire. Habitat rings compressed, snapping like dried reeds. Thousands of lives vanished without a single explosion, without debris, without a chance to flee. Calder gripped the railing. They crushed the yard with a localized well. His tactical officer stared at the data, pale. Sir, there was no acceleration signature. No build-up. They shaped the well instantly. No human can counter that. Alliance fleets scrambled to respond. A cruiser squadron pushed into an intercept vector, drives burning white-hot as they formed a defensive shell. The Varaxi ships adjusted their posture only slightly, drifting as though nudged by thought alone. A second distortion blossomed, smaller, denser, locking the human cruisers in place. Engines screamed, but space refused to release them. Their hulls creaked under invisible pressure. Is that a tractor field? Someone asked. No, Calder said quietly. It's ownership. They're showing us what they consider theirs. The Varaxi did not fire. They did not need to. Only when the cruiser captains transmitted formal surrender codes did the gravity not loosen. The human ships drifted free, wounded not by heat or shrapnel, but by the clarity of their defeat. A final message followed. Terran resistance is inefficient. Further demonstrations may be avoided if compliance is immediate. Silence filled the bridge. Officers stared at their consoles, searching for possibilities that refused to appear. Calder felt a slow burn rise in his chest. Not fear, but resolve sharpening under pressure. Measured and found wanting did not mean finished. Not yet. Section 5. Fractures in the Accord. Panic never arrived as a scream. It came as arguments, as carefully worded statements, as suddenly crowded secure channels lighting up across the system. In the days after the Jovian shipyard was folded like scrap, the Accord looked less like a united front and more like a bundle of fault lines remembering where to break. Admiral Calder floated in the briefing sphere of the Helios crown, a translucent globe where feeds from Earth, Mars, the Belt, and the outer habitats overlapped in layer holograms. Faces flickered past, presidents, directors, militia generals, corporate stewards, each insisting that their priority was survival, each defining survival differently. We cannot match their weapons, argued Director Havel from the Kuiper colonies. Our habitats are exposed. We should negotiate for protectorate status, accept manageable oversight in exchange for continued existence. A Martian defense marshal snapped back. Kneel once, and we never stand again. You saw what they did. They don't share power, they catalog it. Counselor Salim tried to cut through the noise. We have system-wide assets. The defense lattice, the solar mesh, the Lagrange platforms. If we coordinate. But who commands? Another voice cut in. Earth? Mars? The Accord has been a suggestion for years, not a binding authority. Are we now to hand our last choices to a single flag? The word hung there, flag. Gravity. Suspicion. Calder watched trust evaporate by degrees. Some delegates argued that the Varaxi might leave the outer colonies alone if Earth surrendered. Others suggested sacrificing the outer worlds to protect the cradle. He muted the feed and turned to his staff. Thoughts? They're scared, said Tactical. They're right to be. They're also wrong, Calder replied. We don't have the luxury of separate fears. The Varaxi won't conquer us piece by piece. They'll crush the system as one object. A quiet chimed at his shoulder. Mira Cade's avatar appeared, projected from lunar archives. Her expression carried the tired focus of someone who had stared too long at ghosts of data. Admiral, the Council routed my findings to your channel. 3I Atlas wasn't just a scan. It was a classification. We were marked as an asset before we knew we were being seen. I've heard their claim, Calder said. They think a probe and a treaty give them title to the sky. Mira shook her head. It's more than that. Their law assumes we must behave according to the last data they hold. They expect us to respond like the world 3I Atlas recorded. That's where they're wrong. Their picture is centuries out of date. She expanded a hollow beside her. Old Earth glowed there, coastlines familiar, orbits cluttered with primitive junk. Then she overlaid the present web of stations, habitats, and nodes, an intricate halo of human marks on darkness. Calder felt a spark in the fog. If their law and their plans are all built on that snapshot, then everything they think they know about us, Mira said, is already obsolete. We are not the world they came for. For the first time since the shipyard fell, Calder almost smiled. Fault lines remained, and fear. But so did possibility, a sharp crack in the Dominion certainty, waiting to be widened, unbroken. Section 6. The blind spot in the data. The realization did not arrive with fanfare. It settled over the war room like a new layer of gravity, invisible and undeniable. Mira Cade's projection hovered beside the main tactical display. 3I Atlas's ancient telemetry flickering in translucent layers over a living map of the solar system. Old Earth and New Earth shared the same space and did not quite fit. They think this is what we still are, she said. A single inhabited world, low-orbit clutter, limited off-world assets. Their treaty math, their risk models, their reclamation schedule, all of it is based on this frame. She highlighted the old scan. The planet glowed under primitive satellite paths. No ring cities, no Lagrange hives, no glint of the solar mesh. Now, she continued, overlay our present infrastructure. The hollow swelled with light. Habitats bloomed at L4 and L5. Martian orbit traced busy lanes of traffic. The belt glittered with mining stations and freeports. Threads of faint blue indicated gravitic nodes, each one a quiet anchor, keeping stations stable, asteroid tugs aligned, and shipyards in precise configuration. The mesh webbed the inner system like a nervous system built out of math and intent. These nodes didn't exist when 3 Atlas passed through, Mira said. The earliest prototypes weren't deployed until almost a century later. Their probe never surveyed a system laced with controllable gravity. Calder studied the pattern. Each node by itself was modest. Local field dampening, station stabilization, impact deflection. None of them were weapons, but linked. Tomas Rhee, Mira said, gesturing as another figure joined the projection. He wore the plain fatigues of an engineer dragged reluctantly into strategy. Lead architect on the second-generation mesh clusters. Rhee inclined his head. Admiral, tell me, Calder said, if these nodes were synchronized, what could they do to an external field? Rhee hesitated. They weren't built for that. The power draw alone. Hypothetically, the engineer sighed, eyes flicking through projected schematics. In theory, if we could align phasing across the network, we could create constructive or destructive interference patterns against another gravity source. Like pushing a swing at the wrong time to cancel its motion instead of amplifying it. Mira folded her arms. The Varaxi have been shaping space-time alone. They think they're the only ones at the table. Rhee nodded slowly. Their wells are elegant but rigid. Pre-computed, balanced against a static environment. If the environment stops being static, Calder finished the thought, their perfection becomes a weakness. He felt the idea take shape, sharp and dangerous. Humanity could not outgun the Dominion. But perhaps they did not need to. They only had to turn the one blind spot in 3 Atlas's data, everything built after it left, into a lever big enough to pry open the Dominion's certainty and let doubt crash in. Rhee looked up, unease in his eyes. If we do this wrong, we could tear at our own orbits. Stations could fail. Calder nodded. They've already shown us what happens if we do nothing. I'll take a risky sky over an own one. The path ahead was no longer surrender, but dangerous, deliberate unity. Section 7. A plan called Unity. The idea spread across the war room like a controlled detonation. It did not explode all at once. It propagated, through glances, through half-finished sentences, through the slow straightening of shoulders, as people realized that for the first time since the Varaxi arrived, they had something that was not just a reaction. They had a plan. Admiral Calder stood at the center of the hollow table, the solar mesh hovering above it as a luminous web. Each node pulsed softly, color by owner. A core defense, Martian Union, belt cooperatives, independent clans. A patchwork of loyalties built for convenience, not war. We can't match the Dominion ship for ship, he said. But we don't have to. We don't fight their wells with guns. We fight them with our sky. Tomas re-zoomed the map. If we synchronize the mesh, we can generate a counter field. Not enough to crush their ships, but enough to destabilize their precision. Their grav wells need the universe to behave exactly as predicted. If the background starts shifting under them, their solutions break. Counselor Salim frowned. You're talking about linking every gravitic node in the system. Civilian, military, industrial. That's not a network, Admiral. That's a single point of failure the size of our entire civilization. Yes, Calder said, which is why we've never done it. Which is why 3 Atlas never saw it. And why the Varaxi will not be expecting it now. Arguments flared immediately. Representatives from the belt balked at handing control of their stabilizers to his central command. Lunar delegates cited safety protocols. Martian engineers listed failure modes until the room felt colder. Mira cut through the noise. They already treat us as one object, one asset, one world to be filed under reclaimed. We're the only ones pretending our borders matter. Silence followed her words. Re-tapped a node cluster. We won't need permanent authority, just a narrow window. One synchronized surge when their main fleet commits. After that, the mesh can fragment back to local control. If we survive. If we don't, Calder said, control protocols are the least of our problems. He looked around the room, meeting each gaze in turn. Fear lived there. So did pride. So did a stubborn streak that 3i Atlas had never mapped. This is what unity costs, he said quietly. Not slogans, not accords. Trust. Enough trust to hand a stranger your gravity and believe they'll give it back. Conditions surfaced fast. The belt wanted life support untouched. Mars demanded shared command. Earth clung to oversight. Calder waited until the voices thinned. We'll weave your safeguards into the plan, he said. But the trigger has to be single. When their war bubble forms, there'll be no time to argue. Reflashed a model. The mesh rippled as one, a shimmer racing from node to node and converging near Earth's orbit. In simulation, Varaxi wells flickered, lost balance, and collapsed. Mira watched them fail. Then call it Operation 3i Atlas rewritten, she said. They wrote the first version of us. This time, we write back. Section 8. The Dominion's Ultimatum. The Varaxi did not wait long to tighten the noose. Their crescent-ships slid inward, leaving Saturn's orbit behind like a discarded line on a map. Gravity readings spiked across the system as new wells kindled and then held steady, not crushing, but pressing, a hand placed lightly on the throat, showing where control lay. On the Helios crown, bridge lighting dimmed as power shifted to deep sensors. Admiral Calder watched as blue icons, Dominion vessels, drifted into formation around the inner system. No firing arcs, no obvious kill boxes, just presence arranged with care. Sir, the sensor chief said, they've established overlapping influence spheres. Any large-scale burn from our fleets will cross at least 3 of their control zones, meaning they can pin or crush anything that tries to run, Calder replied. A new transmission request appeared. The icon pulsed with patient inevitability. Put it on main. The layered voice filled the air. Terran civilization. Reclamation parameters have been updated. You will surrender custodial authority over Biosphere 3i Atlas. Your populations will be relocated under Dominion stewardship. Your orbital and off-world assets will be repurposed. In exchange, extinction will be avoided. Calder felt a cold anger stir. And if we refuse? The pause was microscopic. Then depopulation will proceed. Your star will remain. Your world will be reseeded. This outcome is regrettable but compliant with the Treaty of the Unseen. The Council appeared in Calder's peripheral display, faces watching the same words roll through their halls. Some looked shaken. Others looked ready to burn everything rather than bend. Counselor Salim stepped into the bridge hollow from the orbital hall. Dominion representative, she said, you speak of stewardship as if we are soil to be tilled. We are a culture. We choose. Choice is a function of perspective, the Varaxi replied. You perceive yourself as agents. We perceive you as unstable value. Our duty is clear. The transmission ended like a cut. For a moment, the only sound on the bridge was the hum of processors and the faint tick of someone's nervous hand against the console. We have our deadline, Salim said quietly. 40 standard hours. After that, they begin depopulation. Then 40 hours is all we have, Calder answered. Signal all mesh node operators. Civilian, military, independent. We initiate 3i Atlas rewritten. No more half measures. Ree's voice came over the tactical link. Admiral, once we start the sync, there's no going back. if their wells couple with our fields in the wrong way. Then we fail loudly, Calder said. But we fail together on our own terms. I'd rather die holding the sky than live under someone else's claim to it. Outside, the Varaxi crescents glittered against the dark, certain the outcome was already written. Inside, humanity finally began to write its own. Section 9. The mesh ignites. Every light in the war room dimmed, as if the system itself were drawing breath. The solar mesh hung above the table, a luminous tangle of nodes and lines, each one representing a generator, a stabilizer, a quiet piece of infrastructure that had never been meant to carry the weight of a species' last chance. Now, colored threads marked new links knitting between them as emergency overrides propagated. Status? Admiral Calder asked. Tomas Ree's voice came rough with fatigue. Outer mesh clusters synced. Belt and Mars in phase. Lunar nets 90%. Earth orbital. Arguing, but coming along. Arguing. Some habitats are afraid of structural stress. If we push too hard, rings crack, stations shear. Myra's avatar flickered into view beside the mesh. They saw what the Varaxi did to Jupiter's yard, she said. They're not wrong to be afraid. Calder nodded. Fear was honest. Send them my authority codes, he said, and the footage. All of it. Let them decide whether they want their gravity controlled by physics or by someone who thinks they're a line item. Redispatched the packet. For long seconds, nothing changed. Then one by one, the lagging nodes shifted from red to amber to green. The mesh model brightened, a web of possibility. Solar mesh ready for synchronized operation. Ree said softly. This is everything, Admiral. If we mistime the pulse, we could destabilize orbits, snap stations in half, flood atmospheres with tides they were never built to handle. Calder looked up at the map of his home, wrapped in fragile artifice. If we do nothing, there won't be anyone left to worry about precision. Out beyond Mars, the Varaxi fleet began to move. Crescents slid into a tight shell around the inner system, edges glowing with building energy. Sensor readouts climbed in steady lines. They're forming a system-scale bubble, the chief analyst whispered. If they close it, they can compress any volume they want. Planet Belt Star. Calder felt a deep, quiet anger settle into something sharper. Then we don't let them close it. He opened a channel on all mesh frequencies. This is Admiral Ren Calder of the Accord Defense Lattice. To every engineer, every operator, every tech with a finger on a grab node, today, you are the front line. When we tell our descendants what we did here, we either say we handed our sky away or that we held it together. Recounted down under his breath as Varaxi energy signatures peaked. Mira watched the old 3I Atlas scan hovering beside the new map, like a ghost of the world they had been. On your mark, Admiral, reset. Calder watched the Dominion's bubble reach for closure, felt the wrongness of it coil inside his bones, and raised his hand. Mesh, he said. Ignite. Across the system, hands moved as one. In control rooms and maintenance tunnels, people who would never see a gunshot still chose this fight, joined by shared gravity and refusal to yield. Break time equals 0. 5S/Section 10, the day gravity broke them. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the solar mesh sang. Across millions of kilometers, gravitic nodes that had lived their lives in quiet service, holding stations level, nudging rocks, lit up in sequence. Fields overlapped and resolved into a single pulse that rolled outward from the inner planets like an invisible shock front. On the tactical display of the Helios crown, the Varaxi formation looked frozen. Their crescents held precise positions, wells braided together in a shell that had never failed them. Their war bubble neared completion, edges brightening as space-time strained. The mesh pulse hit. For an instant, Dominion fields and human fields coexisted, mismatched frequencies crossing like waves from different storms. Constructive patterns rose in some places, destructive in others. Varaxi wells flared, then shuddered. Carefully balanced gradients warped as background gravity stopped behaving like the constant in their equations and started behaving like intention. Reading spikes across their lattice, re-shouted. They're overcorrecting. On screen, 3 Varaxi crescents flickered, halos collapsing inward. Their warps folded the wrong way, punching holes in their own configuration. Emergency wells bloomed as the Dominion tried to patch the failure. But each new patch met another crest of the mesh and turned chaotic. One ship vanished in a bloom of lensing, not an explosion, but an erasure, its own field tearing it sideways out of the fight. Others staggered, positions slipping kilometers off mark as space-time itself stopped cooperating. Keep the phase, Calder ordered. Do not chase. We're not here to kill them. We're here to break their certainty. The Dominion responded with force. A massive central well ignited, aimed at Earth. The mesh flexed. Nodes along the Earth, Luna line surged, their fields rising in anti-phase. The Varaxi beam hit the counter field and blossomed outward, its spine broken, energy spilling harmlessly into dark. For the first time, the Dominion emblem on the comm grid wavered. Calder opened a channel. Varaxi Dominion. You said only those who shape gravity at scale write the treaties. Look at your sensors. Look at your failing wells. We are not the world 3 Atlas showed you. We hold our own gravity now. Silence answered. Then the emblem steadied, dimmer than before. Terran civilization, the layered voice said at last. Clarification. You have demonstrated coherent system-scale gravitic control. We just did, Calder said, and we're still here. The pause that followed was longer. When the voice returned, a new tone lay beneath the harmony. Under Concord law, such control grants sovereign parity. Asset classification must be revised. Reclamation cannot proceed without mutual consent. The bridge crew watched, hardly daring to breathe. Calder let out a slow breath. Then stand down, he said. We will talk as equals, or you will leave as guests. Section 11. Sovereignty declared. The Dominion ships did not withdraw at once. For long minutes, they simply hung there, crescents floating in disturbed space-time, halos dimmer than before. The tactical board showed a wounded animal made of geometry, fields fluctuating, nodes recalculating, equations rewriting themselves in silence. On the Helios crown, no one spoke. Every officer seemed afraid that a single word might jolt the universe back into hostility. Varaxi vessels remain in position. The sensor chief reported at last. Weapons at standby. Gravity emissions stabilizing, but lower than previous levels. They're backing off from full field strength. They're thinking, Mira said softly from her hollow perch. For the first time, they have to. A priority channel request appeared. Calder accepted it. The Dominion emblem returned, its spiral less bright. When the voice came, the harmonics had shifted, still inhumanly smooth, but edged with something new. Consideration. Terran civilization. Dominion war models failed to converge under present conditions. Your mesh output exceeds pre-survey parameters by a factor incompatible with asset status. Under Concord law, we must reassess. Then reassess, Calder said. Look closely. This is what we are now. Data streams rippled between fleets, invisible but immense. The Varaxi were studying everything. The synchronized nodes, the pulse timings, the fact that humanity had risked its entire infrastructure on a single coordinated act of will. This level of control, the voice continued, indicates you have crossed the gravimetric threshold. Our classification of your species must be updated from custodial to sovereign. On the Earth feed, cheers broke out in some chambers, disbelief in others. Calder kept his gaze steady. Clarify what that means, he said. It means, the Varaxi answered, that reclamation protocols no longer apply. We may not depopulate or relocate without your consent. Treaty status shifts to negotiation between peers of gravity. Mira exhaled, a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. Reese slumped against a console in relief, then pushed himself upright as alarms fluttered and died. Counselor Salim's image joined the link. "Then here are terms," she said. "You will withdraw your wells from our system. You will record that Terra and its colonies are not a seed stock, but a polity. And you will amend whatever registry told you otherwise. Your demands are assertive," the Varaxi said. "We learn from the best," Calder replied. "You brought us your law. We're using it." Silence again. Then, slowly, the crescents began to rotate away from the inner system. Gravity readings fell as fields unwound. The war bubble collapsed fully, its half-formed shell dissolving back into ordinary space. "Withdrawal is underway," the Dominion voice said. "Registry will be updated. The asset designation 3I Atlas is rescinded. New entry, Terran Accord polity, unclaimed. Autonomous." Calder allowed himself a small, tired smile. "That's a start. Be advised," the Varaxi added. "Others may come. The Concord is vast. You are now visible." "We were visible the moment 3I Atlas looked back," Mira said. "The difference is that now, we will be ready." The channel closed. For the first time since the Dominion arrival, the sky over Earth, Mars, and every scattered habitat felt like it belonged to the people standing beneath it. Section 12, after the claim. In the days that followed, the sky felt heavier, as if memory itself had mass. The Dominion ships slipped away along pre-computed folds, vanishing into narrowed rings of blue fire until only normal stars remained. Yet every sensor tech, every person staring upward from a habitat window, knew that normal had changed. The universe had answered back. It had given humanity a number instead of name, tried to file them under a claim, and been forced to cross it out. Admiral Rin Calder floated in a viewing gallery aboard the Helios Crown, looking down at Earth. The planet wore its scars lightly from this distance. The thin haze of atmosphere, the glint of ocean, the strands of orbital infrastructure that had survived the mesh ignition, some crooked now, some dark. Repair crews crawled along broken rings. Tugs nudged damaged nodes into safer positions. The system groaned but held. "How bad?" he asked. Myra's hollow appeared beside him, luminescent against the curved glass. "We lost 3 major stations and a swarm of minor platforms. Habitat casualties are still being counted, but the mesh is intact. The orbits will stabilize. We bent our sky and it didn't break." "And the Accord?" Calder said. She smiled faintly. "For the moment, everyone remembers that standing together works. Give it a few years, and they'll be back to arguing over mining rights and relay tariffs. That's how you'll know we survived." He found comfort in that, not in the conflict, but in the ordinariness of it. A civilization that could return to petty disputes after facing annihilation was a civilization that refused to live only at the edge of disaster. Rejoin them, eyes red from sleepless hours. "We've started drafting real standards for system-scale mesh operation," he said. "Next time we do this, it won't be improvised." "Planning for the next invasion already?" Calder asked. "Planning for the next moment someone thinks we're an asset," Ree replied. The Varaxi weren't wrong about one thing. Now that we've crossed their threshold, more eyes will turn our way. Mira nodded. "That's the danger of being noticed. But it's also the point. We wanted the stars. Now, they want us back." Calder watched his supply ship arc toward a damaged ring, its drives cutting gentle curves through darkness. "Let them come," he said. "Whoever arrives next won't find the world 3I Atlas showed them. They'll find us. All of us." In a quiet archive above the moon, an AI curator closed case file 033. Metadata updated. Asset designation removed. New tags appended. Sovereignty, Mesh Unification Event, First Contact. The file joined others in the deep black archives, another story of a species that refused the role written for it. Out between the stars, where 3I Atlas had once drifted and listened and reported, space seemed as empty as ever. It was not. It now held the echo of only a stubborn fact. Humanity had been measured, weighed, and found unwilling to kneel. Please do press that like button if you have enjoyed this story, and also please do subscribe and hit the bell icon to listen to more stories like this one. That would mean a real lot to me. Now go ahead and listen to your next story here.